when we are seeking the safety outside of ourselves, but we never actually feel safe because we're always need more and more, we don't even feel safe within ourselves. And then our system goes on alert of like, okay, there's no time to relax. You have got to do all these things because we're not safe right now. So you got to
Mhm.
either keep on going or kind of like freeze when you get to the point where it becomes overwhelming, or kind of just run away from your responsibilities. Or there's that fawning response too of like, I'm just gonna appease everybody. It's almost like that people pleaser. I'm just gonna make sure everybody's okay. And if I just kind of stay quiet and hidden, then I'm safe.
What if the best chapter of your life hasn't even begun yet? What lies within you is the power to live brighter, bolder, and truer than ever before. So welcome to Vivatude, where caregiving, connections, and career come into balance, and where your vitality, vision, and voice shines through. Because the revolution isn't out there, it's already within you. Welcome to Vivatude.
Welcome back, everybody. Tracy here from your Vivatude host for Physical Environmental Wellness, and we are speaking with Dr. Kelly Kessler. So in this segment, we're going to talk about defining, again, who a high achiever might be, what that looks like, and how she can help you as that, even if you might not realize you are one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, create a very wonderfully balanced life. So, Kelly, what are your thoughts on definition of high achiever?
Yeah, so high achiever can look like a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are just career driven. What it is that you are someone who puts extra effort in seeking safety outside of yourself. So that is putting yourself forward to keep the peace outside of yourself. So you may be a high achiever of making sure relationships are always working well and they seem smooth. So you're willing to put in the effort in that and take on a lot of the emotional effort for that. It can be seeking validation. So going above and beyond to like have a nice house and keep things clean or look a certain way and look at that appearance side of like, okay, I'm going to keep on working hard so I appear a certain way so that I can feel safe. It can be those achievements in the career where you have a certain amount of money in your bank account, where you have a certain status, a certain car. That can also be part of it. But what high achievement is that you are utilizing the external world for that sense of safety for validation, approval, feeling like you are enough rather than seeking it within. So there's a lot of that external validation that really signifies your worth versus you feeling safe within yourself. And a lot of this stems from our childhood of feeling like we had to prove ourselves to feel loved, or maybe our love was conditional from our caretakers, where if you get straight A's, I'm going to give you a lot of love and attention, or if you clean your room, I'm going to give a lot of love and attention, but if you don't, I may distance myself. And so that's just some of those examples, but these patterns that we live with as adults often stem from our childhood experiences.
Very interesting. I've never heard it explained that way. It makes so much sense.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. And with that, what have you found are when we're like that, and when we're trying to find um, self-worth from external
Mhm.
experiences, what impact does that have, even like, to our physical body? Like what are some of the signs that our body can tell us that helps us to realize maybe we're doing that?
So when we're seeking our sense of worth outside ourselves, it's always going to feel empty. It's never going to feel fulfilling. So that plays into that dialogue we have within ourselves of I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. I have to do more and more and more to feel like I'm enough. And so that emptiness and feeling like we're not enough can often lead to that shame, that guilt, like I'm not a good enough person. I'm not doing enough. I'm not fulfilling the role that I think I should be doing. I'm not meeting expectations. And when we
Hmm.
experience that shame, that gets embodied in our system. So it can show up as chronic pain. It can show up as inflammation, chronic inflammation, skin conditions. It can show up if it's long-term, more as like autoimmune diseases. Really anything that's igniting that stress response within our system will then get embodied into our system. So when we are seeking the safety outside of ourselves, but we never actually feel safe because we're always need more and more, we don't even feel safe within ourselves. And then our system goes on alert of like, okay, there's no time to relax. You have got to do all these things because we're not safe right now. So you got to
Mhm.
either keep on going or kind of like freeze when you get to the point where it becomes overwhelming, or kind of just run away from your responsibilities. Or there's that fawning response too of like, I'm just going to appease everybody. It's almost like that people pleaser. I'm just going to make sure everybody's okay. And if I just kind of stay quiet and hidden, then I'm safe. And so
Mhm.
that then plays into higher cortisol levels in our body, which then causes that inflammation. Our fascia within our body, which is a connective tissue, tenses up due to that stress response. And when this is
Mhm.
going on chronically, we see the whole system becomes dysregulated.
Wow, it's incredible, and it's a it's an eye opener because we have been taught in many ways too about sectioning off our body and our mind. We
Mhm.
have a brain that's here, and then our heart is here, and our skin is over there, and our feet are there, um, our stomach's here. And realizing that we are a system,
Mhm.
and I don't know that it will ever be perfectly running because we live in a very, we life changes all the time. So I think it's always adjusting, right? And things like that. But if we can, number one, be aware of maybe, gosh, what is this ailment? And I found too when I'm very stressed, um, again, I went through that aspect of if my body was just perfect, if I could just get that
Mhm.
little bit of cellulite gone. I mean, when I was much younger, I was very, very mean to myself mentally, yo-yo dieting, all that kind of stuff. And it was never enough. I
Mhm.
look at those pictures and I'm like, oh my gosh, that girl is like, I was fit but I was seeking fitness for validation that I was worthy. And
Mhm.
if I wasn't perfectly fit, then I wasn't worthy. And then my brain, this was the other thing. Once I resolved that, it was like, oh, what else can I find? And I'm sure you know is that what else can I find that makes me feel less worthy or whatever? And then the other thing, maybe we can talk about that too, because this next thing is that with anxiety and stress, I find out I just feel weak. Like my muscles feel weaker, and it's hard for me to go for a walk or explain a little bit of that. It's like how that can impact our desire even to move our bodies.
Right. Yeah. It all comes down, that anxiety is really what that is saying is like we're not prepared enough for the environmental demands on us. So it may be like I'm not enough for what my boss needs of me. I'm not enough for what my family needs of me. So we feel like we are just become hyper vigilant of like, what do I need to be? What do I need to do? What do I need to see in order to
Hmm.
fill that role? And so
Hmm.
our bodies then, again, that's that stress response of like, okay, we have to be very aware of things. It becomes almost the same wiring. Like if there was a predator in the woods, like a lion or something, like you become very hyper vigilant because you want to make sure that your system is safe. And so our bodies respond as if that was what was happening, that there's a
Hmm.
threat. But now the threat to most of us is like we're not performing at our job, or we are worried about
Hmm.
what someone's going to say to us or what someone's perspective
Hmm.
of us is.
hmm
That's the threat that we experience here, but our bodies are still wired to view that as a legitimate threat. Like our system is at stake.
hmm
So what happens in that case is again that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. We have a few options, but all of it involves tensing everything up, getting ready to run from it, getting ready to
hmm
freeze, play dead. And that all plays a role in why we have a
hmm
hard time just relaxing or enjoying our bodies. We're in this constant state of stress. And that we're meant
hmm
to do that. We're meant to run from that predator, but we're not meant to do that day in and day out, every single hour of the day. And that's where we see that chronic stress of like, we have screens
Right.
in front of us. We're watching the news that's globally experienced, but now we're seeing it as if it's happening right in our world. And we have a hard time differentiating between what's our threat immediately and what's happening outside the world. And we embody that. So we feel like
Wow.
we're in stress response constantly because of
hmm
stimulus. So our body never has a moment to just relax and
Wow.
heal and restore.
Exactly. That makes so much sense. Okay, everybody, we are going to take another break, but we will be right back with Dr. Kelly Kessler for some more amazing information and for some tips that she can help us with right away. All right, we'll see you in a moment.
And thanks for listening to Vivatude. 4 hosts, 1 each week. We help you revivatude your next chapter because purpose, passion, and prosperity isn't out there. They're already within you. Brighter, bolder, truer. Vivatude.